be it resolved.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Be It Resolved, a weekly debate program where we have lighthearted topics and we have serious topics, but we always debate them with liveliness and vigor. Today, we have a serious topic, and the resolution says, Be it resolved that modern pandemics are our own damn fault. Now, arguing for this position will be myself. I'm Andrew Wood, and my good friend Mario Karakides. Mario. Arguing against this proposition, we have Mr. Al Brown and Mr. Sarab Sandhu. Now, our constructive arguments will be made in 3 minutes each, starting with Mario, and then we'll move into a round robin of 5 minutes or so, and then we'll have some summations at the end. So, be it resolved that modern pandemics are our own damn fault. Now, just before I introduce Mario, I will remind you that the views being expressed are not necessarily our own personally held views, but it's all done in the spirit of friendly debate. So, Mario, you're arguing for this. You have 3 minutes.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew, ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow colleagues and opponents. I'd like to begin by basically saying and agreeing that pandemics have been around for a very long time. Historically, there has been a lot of pandemics. We've had the Asian flu, the Spanish flu, the Hong Kong flu, smallpox, HIV, SARS, COVID, MERS, and on and on and on, just to mention some of the more recent ones. However, there is a commonality between all these recent ones that tie them and actually increase their frequency, and that is us, the human factor. The human factor in allowing the viruses that are outside previously in many centuries ago to be outside of our food chain to now enter into our food chain as we start to eat many more animals that are not that were not part of our diet and before. Our ability to travel into multiple parts of the world, all over the planet these days, allows that the viruses to increase and expose us a lot more to the diseases that otherwise would not have been mass or in a pandemic setting. It would have been more of a localized event. Of course, we also have our ability to look at the human factor beyond just travel and exposure and all that, but our ability to bioengineer them, to modify them, to make them into weapons, to turn lethal viruses out on humanity, whether by purpose or by mistake, and that can cause human disasters like we've never seen before. And of course, our own inability to follow science, our own inability to look at others first, as opposed to looking at ourselves first. All that, when you take it together, puts the one thing and the onus onto one and one only species, and that is the human species. So it is our damn fault, because if we are not going to be careful, if we are not going to allow each other to protect each other, but instead we are only considering ourselves, then folks, we are to blame, pure and simple. Our behavior equates to the deaths that are happening, to the exposures that are happening, and also to the ignorance that is happening. We cannot forget that. I will pause here right now and allow the other side to discuss, and then we will deal with our opponents on the counter.
Thank you, Mario. Okay, Al Brown, you have 3 minutes to make your argument starting now.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Well, viewers, this issue has been raised almost to biblical proportions. That the pandemics that are put against us are retributive justice for our ills. Well, that if that was the case, I think humanity would have probably died out a long time ago, because there's been lots of pandemics that have come by over the last 11,000 years. From the time when it's been recorded that we first started having agriculture, although others would say it's gone back even further than that, there have been pandemics. We know some of them from our historical record, but there's a lot we probably have known nothing about because there's been no record of them. In fact, entire civilizations have probably been destroyed completely and gone into dust because of pandemics. But the thing is about this is that because of all of this, there has always been some common threads to it. It's humanity's willingness to go out and go beyond his bounds, to become more than he is, more than just a savage animal running through the bush, fearful of the predators around him, and becoming knowledgeable creatures like us, to be able to know what we are capable of doing. And over time, the elements of all these pandemics has all remained the same. Nothing's really changed, not even the most modern pandemic, COVID-19. It's all from the same sources. Over time, there's only one thing, perhaps one thing over time that has changed, maybe two things that have changed over time. And the second thing is very recently, which is our ability to do something about these pandemics to the point of perhaps preventing them. That is the focus of the modern vaccine theory and practice, to get ahead of the vaccines. But what does that all mean? Is this really our fault? Are we really at fault for having been human beings all the time? Curious creatures willing to go out and try and see the rest of the world and try and understand it for what it is, and maybe encountering other creatures. Throughout history, humans have gone into new climates, and of course they've encountered bugs, and these bugs have permeated into our bodies and caused us much grief and harm, and many today still do that. This is not something that we can say, I think, that it's God's punishment on us. It's just the nature of it. Maybe it's God's challenge to us, a challenge that we have to go out there and see the world, but in the process take risks and put our lives in jeopardy just for the sake of enjoying the world and seeing it for what it is. Well, there's a lot more that I can say on this, but I will pass it on. The bottom line is that this is just a natural thing from us being human. We shouldn't be ashamed of what has happened, nor blame ourselves for it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Brown. We will ignore the fact that you went significantly over your time, and you're lucky there are no judges or they'd be deducting points, but we won't go there too much. Okay, but it is my turn now, and I'm going to hit the button.
Apologies.
No, just pulling your leg there, Mr. Brown. Okay, now look, be it resolved that modern pandemics are our own damn fault. Well, it's only true. We're not arguing that modern people have invented pandemics. That's not our argument. Of course, there have been pandemics through history, but we're talking about modern pandemics, and that is our fault. The severity of them, the duration of them, the universal spread of them, the increasing pace at which they're being generated, all of those things are because of the way we in our modern society are putting increasing pressure on the natural world, just in so many different ways. Well, let's go back to the Black Death back in 1348. And if you know any history at all, you will know that it killed a large percentage of the European population. It was terrible. It devastated whole countries, but it didn't devastate China or Japan. It was unknown in North America, South America, Australia. Nowadays, of course, we have modern air travel and ship travel. And so a pandemic that starts in China, as one recent one did, which I could name, it can be in any country in the world within 24 hours. And it was in any country in the world. You remember that Donald Trump banned travel from China to great fanfare early last February, I believe, and he was going to shut the door on this COVID-19 virus. Well, it came in through the back door, did it not? It came in through Italy and Britain and the other places in Europe where Chinese travelers had traveled, brought the virus, and continued to spread it. So that's one obvious way in which the virus travels in modern times. And the other, there's so many other things, though. The mere fact that the wildlife, which has had their own sets of diseases for untold eons, living in their own habitats, living far away from humans, and so we never met. Nowadays, we're encroaching on their space. We're destroying their habitats. They have no choice but to come closer to humans, and we bring them into our markets. We bring them into our restaurants as wild meat, and of course, it's inevitable that those things are going to happen. And then, you know, just thinking of all the way that we modern humans, and I wish I had more time, just like Al did, you know, the denialism and the refusal to wear face masks and warehousing people in old age homes, all those things are reasons why the modern world loves pandemics. Okay, well, I got a little emotional there. Okay, Sarab, I believe it's your turn to make your arguments.
Certainly. Thank you very much for all the points our opponents have made. And thank you all for listening this exciting topic. I want to start with asking, when we had these dinosaurs disappear, we have big tsunamis, you have this volcanic ash come up, and for years you don't have anything happening on the earth, the whole life changes. Was human involved there? Now, this is exactly this pandemic, which is an unseen force, is what is going around, is exactly like the asteroid which comes there, because you don't know when it's happening. We are fighting with the cause when it happens, how to prevent yourself from that. But when it happens, this is already there. It is just coming into your experience. So human beings have, they make the thing worse, definitely, but they are not the cause of the thing, because this is happening naturally. Even if the animals are in the wild, all the wet markets and how they are causing this pandemic, the present one. Okay, don't eat the meat, or if you eat the meat, we didn't know that it's going to cause all that. We now know that it's causing it. Before that, we didn't know. They've been eating for the same meat for so many years. So what I'm saying is, the Black Plague, when it happened, was it the humans' fault? Maybe it was. I suppose it was dirty in that area. There was a bug which they didn't know what to do with it. But now these bugs also are unseen. We're always finding new sort of solutions to prevent them from going forward. So it's very, you can't say human beings are responsible for the modern day pandemic. Modern day pandemic are nothing else but a natural event which takes place because of circumstances being all the ducks are in a row, just like how an asteroid fell, or you have a big eruption of the volcano and you have the sky covered for maybe 3-4 years, the sunlight doesn't even come down. See what happens down below. What sort of disease can come up from there? Nobody can predict. But they had some various asthmatic and other problems, other disease they had after this big eruption from Krakatoa in 1895. So with that, I would like to give it back to you and again reiterate, the human being is not responsible for this. They're responsible for getting rid of it. And
well, thank you, Sarab. Yes. Okay. Well, we're going to go into our round robin now. And if I can kick it off, Mario and I are not arguing that humanity is causing the pandemics per se. But the point is that the choices that we're making and the way the modern world is so interconnected and all the pressures that we have, it's inevitable that a sickness that appears in one part of the world and is easily spread is not just going to become a localized issue. It's going to become very, very easily a worldwide pandemic. That's what's happening now, and that's what we're arguing.
That's
Absolutely.
not Andrew, I must beg to disagree with you. That's not a reason to say that pandemics are our own damn fault. We have had pandemics over the years, and most of the time they have spread. Like the Black Death was spread from the Far East through a single ship that docked, I think it was in Italy or
Genoa.
maybe off
Genoa.
Okay. It brought the disease from somewhere by transportation. And it wasn't the fact that it took a long time. It didn't happen instantaneously. It was on that ship probably for many months before it actually hit the shores and started spreading throughout Europe. So the speed of transmission isn't necessarily the issue here, because once a pandemic gets into an environment, it just goes like wildfire. It just burns through an entire population.
It does.
And we can't stop that. We can't stop that. These things happen on regular occurrence.
Yes, we can stop it, and we can stop it by behavior, or we can mitigate it by behavior. And this is where I think our opponents are not seeing it. They are actually correlating it to cause, like human beings caused it. We're not correlating cause. We are actually putting the blame on effect. When we're saying it's our fault, it's on the effect. On us being able to stand up and basically admit to the fact that we contribute to the spread. It's a communicable disease, folks. It goes from one person to the other through close contact or whatever the case may be. When we're doing that, that's what happens. We spread it to one another. Old days, going back into the past, travel was not something that was huge. Now you go into an airport, what happens? Let me just finish the statement. Then you go into an airport, what happens? You have people lining up 6 feet apart to get through the check-in stands, but then they get into an airplane and they sit next to each other like sardines. Come on, folks, give me a break here. We have to have a consistency, and that's our fault that we're not following consistency.
Absolutely.
Why? Economics. Come on.
Let me make the point here about Canada, because we have something to be ashamed of. 80% of our COVID deaths have come to people, senior citizens, who are in old age homes and seniors homes, long-term care, all of those things. That doesn't have to be. That's systemic. That's society that's packing them together like sardines. It's warehousing them. They're basically just put there waiting to die, but they don't have to be exposed to the virus the way they are. Those are choices that we make in our modern society.
Andrew, Mario, I have to make deference to the how specific you're trying to make this resolution. You're defining it down just tightly to our interactions between humans, when really it's a bigger issue that we're talking about here. When we say that the pandemic is our own damn fault, it's sort of like saying we're painting targets on our toes and taking a gun and shooting our toes off one at a time just for the fun of it. It's
not for the fun of it, not that part. We are shooting our toes off. That's undeniable.
Let's differentiate the two terms, folks. One is called epidemic when it's localized. The other is called pandemic when it's going outside of the local realms, right? What you guys are arguing in the past is epidemics. Right? Pandemics are worldwide. They spread out to the point of not being able to control it. We are in a pandemic situation right now. Human behavior causes that, human connectivity. And it's nothing bad about us going out, like you said, and exploring the world, but we have to do it with caution. We have to do it with the understanding that if something happens, we have to have mitigation rules right in place to stop it from spreading, not by hiding the fact that it happened, keeping it out of the public's interest like China did for months until it hit it hit the proverbial fan, and everybody then all of a sudden is panicking to mitigate it. No, China had many months, okay, as early as September, as reports are coming out now, that knew that this thing was dangerous, that it had escaped.
Well, that's true. And you're very right. And further than that, though, I would say we've got to give our wildlife a break. We are relentless. We are remorseless. We're just forcing them out of their habitats. We're forcing them to live close to us. We're putting them under pressure that is just, I mean, it's going to result in this kind of disaster. It can't happen otherwise. And that is our own damn fault.
You
Okay, well,
mentioned
I'm going to
something
pull the
about a
plug
ship.
on the
Somebody
round.
said-
I'm going to pull the plug on the round robin, Sarab. It's your turn to summarize your thoughts. Can you? 90 seconds.
Yeah, first somebody mentioned about a ship which brought in the Black Plague. I would say a ship, especially a tanker, will be the best place not to transmit anything. It's an open water and it has got nothing to go by other than the passenger ship. They can do that. So be on a tanker, and the human beings, we are talking exactly, the resolution now states that we are, how do we protect ourselves against this COVID, this pandemic? That's what we are talking about, this whole resolution about. And that, of course, we're seeing how it's being rolling out with the delays in vaccine and all that. Yes, with that, human beings are causing it further to go up, but it is a natural event, and we should see that we, how to protect ourselves, it should be our idea. And back to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's my turn to introduce my final arguments. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what? In the last few decades, we've had so many different diseases that have become worldwide. I mean, I can't even name them all. Hong Kong flu, the Asian flu, HIV, SARS, H1N1 MERS. I'm just looking at a list here. Ebola, Zika, Nile fever. Remember all of those? They're coming faster and faster and faster as the pace of life, modern life, becomes faster and faster and faster. And yes, science combats these things, and we do battle them, and the vaccinations and all the rest of it. But you know what? There's no hiding the basic fact that the reason why these things are multiplying and they're gaining traction, and there will be more for anyone who thinks that COVID-19 is the last one. I got news for you. It's the latest one. It's not the last one. But I don't see how it can be ignored, that the way we've set up our modern society with all of our systems, capitalism, this hasn't even been mentioned in the debate. You know, there's the pressure to keep the stores open, to keep the businesses running, and just all of those things. It's like we've sat down on some level and tried to work out how we can make things easier for various viruses and diseases and germs, and everything we can do to clear their path. Well, that's what we've done in setting up the systems in our modern society. So yes, we contend it's our own damn fault. Okay, thank you. And Al, 90 seconds.
Based on a study that I read just recently from 2012, animal to human diseases kill about 2.2 million people a year. And that is 13 pathogens, ranging from tapeworms to all sorts of other nasty little critters. So this is nothing new. And it's been going on for thousands of years. In fact, we are probably today the healthiest generation or healthiest population in the world, so free from pathogens and disease-causing organisms, and our lifespans show it. I mean, the average lifespan today is close to 80 years, I think it is, or something of that nature. 100 years ago, it was only 40 years. So things have changed, things are getting better, but pandemics still happen. And there's nothing we can do to stop them. They come from animals, they come from domesticated animals, as well as wild animals. Over the years, and over 11,000 years over recorded history, or close to that, 80% of the pandemics have actually come from the animals we've domesticated, and some from the wild sources. So this isn't going away anytime soon, and there's no point in us wearing the hair shirt and blaming ourselves for what went wrong, because it just isn't that case. Sure, we travel a lot more, but the amount of travel doesn't correlate directly with the spread of pandemics. You get one person going into a culture, an alien culture, and the disease will just go rampant. That is my argument.
Thank you very much, Al. Mario, you have the last word today.
Thank you very much, Andrew. It's not our damn fault, right? Well, it is our damn fault. And that is the major problem here. Nobody is arguing that pandemics are kind of, God's retribution on the earth or on humanity, like our esteemed colleague Sarah said. That has nothing to do with that. We're not arguing that. We're arguing behavior here. We're arguing modern society here. We are saying that by the virtue of our expansion and ability to travel and ability to interact and our abilities to counter logic many times, because we have conspiracy theories out there that are telling you one thing and then another science telling you another thing, which causes mistrust, which causes behavior shifts in people not to heed warnings and get themselves exposed to viruses and perpetuate the disease as opposed to mitigating the disease. All of these are common factors that do have a fault, and that fault is on us, folks. We can't get away from that. Governments finding ways to kill each other better and more efficiently. Biological warfare. How many countries around the world through history have created biological warfare? Unfortunately, Canada is one of them that has created biological weapons at some point.
Yeah.
But we cannot by any means say that these things are not our effective behavior. We need to understand that as we step out into the world to other appearances, we are responsible for not only what we're going to be exposed at, but also what we're going to expose other communities to. History has shown it. Let's learn from history and let's stop and think before we do. Especially now we're going to start colonizing outside of this planet. We have to stop, think before we do. It is our own fault. Remember.
Okay.
We're going to infect Mars.
Yeah, we're going to infect Mars. And just to be spared to the
Infect
other side,
ourselves
because
from Mars.
I was nudging Al a little bit earlier. Mario, you spent 2 minutes on your 90-second summation there. So the judges will deduct points for that, if there were any.
That means we won the debate then. We were on time.
Okay, well, friends, that's our debate. That's as far as we're going with this. We hope you enjoyed the arguments. I'm sure you have opinions of your own, and we'll look very much forward to seeing what you have to say in the reply. So please do let us know what you think of the podcast and what your opinion is about this particular topic. Good. So thank you very much for your attention here. We're coming back next week. Yes, we are, and we have a great topic for you ahead. And we're going to be it resolved that cannabis is good for your health. So that'll be fun.
Cannabis?
Cannabis is good for your health.
Cannabis, hey.
Okay.
An evil weed.
The evil weed. Yes, it is. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, and please subscribe so you do not miss another episode. Thank you.